Hi everyone, I'm here with Anne Bourne. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excellent.
Yes.
Thank you.
And you might know Anne because she's written books. This is one of them. If You Stand Here, a pilgrim tour of the Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela. It's a good book. We're not here to talk about this book, but Anne came in last week.
Last week, yeah.
And she said, Ivar, you should do something on volunteering. And I'm thinking, that's a good idea, because I have a lot of people that ask me that. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure what to tell them. I know the Pilgrims office has their program and they have their way of getting application, but there's so many albergues out there as well that need volunteers or ask for volunteers. So I'm thinking, why don't we sit down with Anne and talk about volunteering on the Camino? Because I'm sure there are people out there have done it, they love the walk, they walk the Camino, and they wanted to give something back or spend more time in one place helping pilgrims coming through instead of just walking through themselves. So, what types of volunteering can someone do?
Okay, so there are a couple of different places where you can volunteer and a couple of different tasks that you can perform. I think the first thing people think about is volunteering at an albergue. Mm-hmm. Not every albergue will take volunteers, either because they have a professional staff or because it's a job that could be performed by someone in Spain. Mm. So a volunteer can't just show up and start sweeping when they could hire someone locally to sweep.
And I should say also, some people ask me here at my office, could I volunteer here? But of course, that would be actually illegal because it's I'm a private company, I'm a for-profit company, and there are laws on minimum wage and things like that, which, it will be difficult to have someone here just volunteering.
Yeah. But the albergues that will take volunteers are typically sponsored by a group. So I'm thinking of the Confraternity of St. James. They have two places in Miraz and Rabanal where they staff the albergues with their own volunteers. Mm-hmm. I know at Ribadizo, the American Pilgrims staff not actually, they're volunteers, but they're actually not tasked to perform much. They just greet pilgrims. They just talk to people. So they've sort of worked that out with the community that they're going to provide people through the main season, through, I think it's April through the end of September. Okay. And they greet pilgrims. They say, hi, welcome, how are you? What do you need? Mm-hmm. The basic sort of hospitality things that I think that we really appreciate as pilgrims. Mm-hmm. So those are the two key places that I'm thinking of, the Confraternity and the American Pilgrims. But there's also a blessed organization called FIX, which is the Fraternidad Internacional de Camino de Santiago. And they staff 3 donativos in an effort to promote donativos going forward, because there's a threat that these small by donation donativo albergues will not survive. Yes. So they staff 3 locations: Nájera on the Camino Francés, Grado, where I've worked twice on the Camino Primitivo, and a new albergue in Canfranc on the Camino Aragonés.
So they have their own application process for that.
Yes, each one of these groups will have their own process. Typically, it's going to be an interview to see if you're likely to be someone who would welcome pilgrims easily, that this would not be a chore for you, or that it isn't completely out of your experience.
Because some albergues, they ask you to make the breakfast, to do a lot of housework. I mean, clean up in the afternoon, and some. Seems like just you need you to be there at the reception greeting people.
Yeah,
so with a different level with a smile, but there's different level of work involved.
Well, I can tell you what I've done, because I've been volunteering on the Camino for 10 years. Mm-hmm. In Nájera, we had 52 beds, and they all had sheets and pillowcases. That meant every morning we got up at the crack of dawn. The minute a pilgrim left their bed, we grabbed the sheets and put them in the laundry, because we had to wash and dry all of those sheets, and we were full.
They didn't have 2 sets, so you had to wash and dry it before the next. No, you had to.
Yeah, no. That was it.
Wow.
And there were two of us, and typically my colleague would wash and dry, and I would fold. So I came out of that job, my arms from folding sheets like this all day. Oh my goodness, I would, yeah. But that's what we did, and we, pilgrims were grateful because they had sheets and pillowcases instead of paper or nothing. So that was good, but. We did not provide breakfast because it was easy enough to get breakfast in town. And we did not provide dinner, but we had a kitchen so that pilgrims can come in and make their own meals. We point people in the way of the supermercado, and then they come in and cook for themselves. But then we typically would have to clean and sweep and wash the floors and straighten up and get rid of the garbage.
Okay.
I became very friendly with the man who picked up the garbage because he saw me every day.
Okay, so that was one experience. Some other experience of albergue that maybe it was different?
Well, in Grotto there were 16 beds. So immediately that was different. And we had the opportunity to get to really know the pilgrims. And I'll tell you, I was there for 2 weeks, and easily a dozen of the pilgrims that I served in Grotto sought me out here and told me that Grotto was one of their best experiences, that it was welcoming, and that's all that matters to me. I want it just to be a place where people feel safe and they can sort of let go a little bit and communicate with their fellow pilgrims. So we would get up at 5:30 and make breakfast for everyone, but it was a simple breakfast, just toast and coffee, something to get them going.
Yeah. Do you have anything that before the first time you volunteered, anything that surprised you after you finished your first volunteer? Was it more work than you thought? Was it less work? Was it more time with pilgrims than you thought, or less time with pilgrims than you thought?
Well, I'll tell you, the very first job that I had was in 2014 here in Santiago. And my role, it was a program called Amigos, and it actually predated by a year the group of Irish nuns that are working now in the Camino Companions in room 6 in the pilgrim's office. So our role was, back in the day when pilgrims used to line up, they would be lined up down the block on Rua Villar. We would greet them. Hi, how are you? Where did you start? Where are you from? We would try every language we could muster to make them feel welcome and answer their questions. I expected just to be smiling and greeting and talking. What I didn't expect was listening to everyone's reason for walking a pilgrimage. So after 4 hours in my shift, I was exhausted. I was completely beat because I'm an empath, and that's kind of a toxic environment for an empath. But, I realized that was something I was supposed to do, that I was there for a reason.
Do you also feel that is the case when you work at albergues, where people tell you they share as much, or maybe not until they are finished the Camino in Santiago?
Yeah, well, this is what I'm finding working here now in the pilgrim's office. I'm walking because my husband just died. I'm walking because my daughter died from domestic abuse, and I'm raising awareness and funds for an organization that will support both legislation and the families. A man I met this morning has walked the Camino every year for 6 years since his wife died. So has a kind of a cumulative effect, and it will take its toll if you don't find a way to look for balance. But see, that's where my training helps. I was trained by the American Pilgrims to be an Hospitalero, and the training was outstanding.
Tell us about the training for being a Hospitalero. What does that involve?
Yeah, I knew I wanted to do this early on. I knew this was something that I would enjoy, that I would find satisfying, and that I felt that I could do. So I wanted to do something. So it was 3 or 4 days in California. We stayed at a retreat center, and we sort of mimicked the albergue experience, and we ate together and we slept together, and it was a very community building experience. But the training was really magnificent. It was, let's list all the things that you really love about an albergue. Share, the time I did da-da-da-da, or the Hospitalero helped me, whatever. And then it was, well, how about the things you really didn't like about the albergue? And then the balance was, if you're going to do this, you have to recognize that this is the way people come away from the experience, and you want to provide the best experience possible.
Mm-hmm.
And it was tremendously helpful. And then they will connect you with an organization in Spain. They will connect you with the Pilgrims office if you want to write Compostelas.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the swing part of doing the training, is that the people who train you will connect you with open spots. Of course,
Okay.
we have to talk about open.
Yes, because it's busy. It seems like a lot of people would like to volunteer.
Yeah, I think there are probably 16 times as many people that want to volunteer than there are spots.
Yeah.
But that shouldn't deter you.
Mm.
It just means you have to plan a little bit farther out.
Yeah.
Like the group that I'm working with now, the Camino Companions, was founded by Sister Catherine in 2015. It's a welcome ministry. And we provide pilgrims with a chance to sit and talk with each other, share their experiences, share why they walked, share what they have gotten out of the experience. But I know for a fact that 2025 is booked.
Mm.
Well, I applied for this now, which is the end of October, last December. And the only reason I got a spot, because I really thought I would like to do this, and I have loved every minute of it. The only reason I got a spot was because someone canceled.
Mm. Are there some minimum requirement, except from having passed the training? Do you need to speak Spanish? Are there other, or anything like that?
Well, that speaking Spanish obviously helps.
Mm. Are you going to get bumped in the queue if you do speak Spanish?
I don't think
No?
so.
No?
No, I don't know. That's an interesting concept. No.
Mm.
I know for FEECs, they do require that one of the two Hospitaleros does speak Spanish.
Mm.
They need an interpreter. They need someone to interpret with the locals if they need an electrician, or you need someone to fix the lock or whatever. You need to be able to communicate.
Mm.
You also need to be able to give people directions and send them to people who might also not speak English or whatever your language is.
Mm.
But I think the one sort of running theme is that you have got to have spent time in an albergue yourself. You can't be the guy that just books in hotels. This is not necessarily the job for you.
Mm.
You need to know what it's like to spend a night in a dormitory with people snoring and wiggling their plastic bags. And you need to know how wonderful it is when someone gets up early to make you coffee. There's the pluses and minuses that you find as a pilgrim. You need to have that real experience.
Mm. Good. So I guess there are different ways of going forward if you want to volunteer. See if you could send me some links and
Oh,
something.
absolutely.
I will
Yeah.
put this in the description of the video beneath.
Okay.
Anything else that you wanted to talk about?
Well, there are some other opportunities to volunteer in Santiago.
Mm.
Not with you.
Mm. No,
I don't want to send people to you. The Pilgrims House
Yes.
has a volunteer program, and you can apply just by Googling the Pilgrims House, or by stopping in if you're here in Santiago, or if you're planning to come in. You can go in and talk to them about volunteering. They have an application process. The people that I've met at the Pilgrims House that were volunteers were just the loveliest people.
Mm.
There was a couple there just a few days ago that I had a chance to talk to, and it was a welcoming, warm, embracing experience. And being able to offer that to pilgrims is very special.
Yeah.
The other thing is, remarkably, there's actually a soup kitchen in Santiago that takes volunteers. It's called the Cocina Económica, and we can get the link to that too.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah,
But you probably need to speak Spanish there, don't you?
definitely. Yeah.
Because that's not an international environment. I
No.
think that's more
That's a
it's
local
in
soup kitchen,
Santiago.
but they do accept volunteers. If you're here for a couple of days and you want to help out, you can get in touch with them and say, "I'll be there. Let me help you."
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Anything else? I mean, there's a lot of people, every year more and more people have walked the Camino, and they, this might be one of those ways you could share something and
Yeah,
give something back.
I don't want to deter people by telling them that 2025 is booked, because it may not be booked everywhere.
But then get your name on the list, right? And
Yeah.
then if it's something someone cancels at 25, maybe they'll contact you, and
Exactly.
if it works out for you, maybe
Yeah.
you could do it, or you know.
But I also know that American pilgrims tend to plan farther out than other pilgrims.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can see this on the Facebook groups. I'm planning to walk in 2026. Well, great. If you think you might like to volunteer and you've already walked before, this might be something for you.
Oh, the volunteer training happens in the local chapters in the U.S., right?
Typically, I don't know about the confraternity. I think it might be central, but I don't know. The American Pilgrims offers training through the American Pilgrims. It's not in the local chapters.
Okay,
The local chapters.
So it's a central.
Exactly, it's centrally.
So you have to
run.
travel then to the location.
Yeah, I went to California.
Yeah.
Yeah, worth the trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Anything more?
I just find this the most satisfying thing I've ever done.
It seems
It's just really so rewarding.
Yeah.
You know, because you can. It's rare that you get a chance to make an impact. You know, that where you can. Like, I mean, just this morning, I found a pilgrim who had a map in her hand and couldn't figure out where anything was. She was just dazed and glazed. And I said, well, you know what? You're in the Plaza Cervantes.
Yes.
And if you walked out, she says, is that all I had to do? And then you walk away feeling, you know, I did something. You know, I helped. I did something.
It's a little bit how I feel working here, actually.
Oh,
because
good.
you help people. That's what you do. And people are happy when you are able to help.
Yeah.
You know? So that's nice.
Yeah, it can be draining. I'll be the first person to tell you that it can be very draining.
What is the normal stint if you do a volunteer?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Typically 2 weeks.
So you need to have 2 weeks blocked off.
Yeah, but you know what? I even talked to a woman who injured her ankle walking, and decided to stay at her albergue and volunteer until her ankle got better.
Okay. That works.
So, I mean, she wouldn't have had necessarily to sweep and mop and do the sheets and pillowcases. She could just sit at the desk and welcome people and sign their thing.
Lodging is provided, right? I'm assuming.
It is in most cases. I know it's not with the Pilgrims house.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure the Pilgrims office, but I can't swear to that. But in any of these cases, just ask. You know what you need to find.
I'm asking because I'm thinking people are sitting there looking at their budget and thinking, okay, I have to get the plane ticket. It's going to be expensive for 2 weeks. What expenses will I have?
Well, it depends on the gig. In albergues, sometimes you're only responsible for buying your own food because you're housed at the albergue. Like I said, the Pilgrim's house here does require you to provide your accommodations, but typically people stay at San Martin Panario, which is absolutely the cheapest accommodation possible.
Yeah. But book early because that gets full of.
Oh, good Lord! You know, I've never stayed there. I've never been able to get in.
Yep. Okay, well, as I mentioned, we'll put links below in the description to all these opportunities. And I guess just send in your information if you're interested and cross your fingers that you get contacted.
Yeah.
And thank you, Anne, for coming in and sharing all this.
Oh, I just love this.
Great. All right. Until next time. Ciao, ciao.